who have deliberately withdrawn from the world, alleging that the kingdom of the Lord is not to be found on earth. They kneel for long periods of time in houses of worship, and they believe that in such an escape they achieve sanctity. Many cross their arms in front of the works of regeneration, and when asked why they express repulsion at the disagreeable pictures the earthly experience offers them, stating that Christ told Pilatus that his kingdom had not yet been established in the circles of the human struggle. However, one must remember that Christ did not disinherit the planet. His word did not warrant the complete denial of heavenly happiness for the earth, but only defined the environment at that time without disregarding hope for the future. The Master clarified, "But for now, my kingdom is not of this world." This statement reveals his confidence. Jesus, therefore, cannot endorse the erroneous attitude of workers who have become discouraged simply because the darkness has become thicker around temporary problems, or because human wounds at times become more painful. Such circumstances are often subject to pure visual illusion. Divine activity never ceases. It is precisely in the arena of beneficial struggle that disciples will carve out their victories. Thus, we should not desert the world for the contemplative posture, but instead we are to press on confidently toward the great future. So let us pray. So let's close our eyes, find a comfortable spot where we are seated. Take a deep breath. Raise our thoughts to God, our Father, to Jesus Christ, our Master, to our guardian angels, to the entire spiritual team that helps and guides all the efforts and all the work of FSS. And first, let's be grateful. Grateful for one more week that has passed, one more week ahead of us, and for this morning, for again to be here with amongst brothers and sisters to reflect, to think about a little bit of how important it is for us, even though we are in the midst of a planet that is going through so many struggles, so many difficulties, not only the planet, but within each one of us. And let's see how important it is for us to meet those challenges with enthusiasm. Let's be grateful as well for this second home of love. This place where we come here to learn about Jesus' teachings, to reflect upon it and see how the divine laws, the virtues, and Jesus as our model and guide can help us, each one of us in our individual journey to become a better immortal spirit. Let's ask that our guardian angels, the spiritual team, can guide us, can illuminate, can shine the light to every one of us here, so we can leave this place a little bit better than before we came into. That we can continue the reflections, continue to investigate and comprehend the teachings and how Jesus, our model and guide, can guide us in our journey. Let us have another blessed and enriched conversation. So be it. All right. So today we're going to talk about enthusiasm. What does it mean to have enthusiasm? What is enthusiasm? What's the importance of enthusiasm? especially in this world that we are living in, where we face so many challenges, but at the same time, we face so many happy moments, right? There's not only despair, there's not only bitterness, there's not only bad things happen in the world, in our lives, there's also good things. And we're going to talk about there is a purpose for those two streams of things happening in our life, the good things and the bad things, or not so good ones, the challenge that we have, because it's through those challenges that we will be able to overcome and repair or learn or change something in us so we can be a better person. So, references for today: Gospel According to Spiritism, 2 texts from psychographed by Divaldo Franco, by the Spirit Joana de Angelis. One is from the book called Surrender to God, ou Entrega-te a Deus, titled Enthusiasm, ou Entusiasmo. Another book called Child of God, Filho de Deus, and the text is Enthusiasm in You, ou Entusiasmo em Ti. And also a beautiful passage that I always like to bring here when we talk about some of the things that the Spiritist world, mean Emmanuel, Joana de Angelis, or any other spirit, when they give us some of the direction, they give us, this is what you should be encouraged to look for. There's always a component within us that is required so we can go toward that direction. That is our willpower. And we're going to talk about a passage from a book called The Problem of Being Destined, or O Problema do Ser, do Destino e da Dor, from Leon Denis, where I'll bring just a tiny piece of how he describes our willpower and the importance of our willpower in everything that we do in our life, incarnated and also as an immortal spirit. So let's put a little bit in context. What is happening with, not only what is happening with our planet, but what is our planet? What does the gospel, according to Spiritism, let's do a test. What does the gospel, according to Spiritism? There's a passage where it explains or gives a little bit of a characteristics of Earth. What are some of those characteristics that the Spiritists give about Earth? What do they compare Earth with or to? I don't know if I'm using the right preposition. Do you remember, or have you ever read a small passage? I will not remember exactly where, but the spirits give a little bit of a characteristics of our world. Do you remember what do they say?
Didn't they say that a place of suffering?
Yes, they compare to some, saying that the world compares to like a hospital or like a prison. Because when we talk about the now I'm not sure if it's a gospel according to Spiritism or the Spiritist book, where we have the scale or the characteristics of all the worlds, right? We have the primitive world, the world of trials and expiations, world of regeneration, the word of I can't remember the other word, and then the pure world. The happy world, right? And we are here on this world of trials and expiations. And as the characteristics of this world, it's kind of a world where we are here, kind of when he's compared to a hospital or to a prison or a place where there is more kind of the evil than the good. And Joana, when she talks about enthusiasm, actually she kind of starts with enthusiasm saying there's no doubt that there is suffer in our modern society. Not only suffer individually, but also suffer collectively, right? So when you start looking at this, it seems like doomy and gloomy. And that's why I kind of choose this passage from our daily bread, saying, oh, well, what's the point then? Should I just give up? Right? There's no point of living in this. And Joanna kind of gives us and explains that it's because of, not because it's through that suffering or some of the challenge that we face, that is actually the opportunity that we have so we can maybe fix some of the things that we might have done in the past, or is an opportunity for us to maybe we learn when we are a spirit and say, okay, now I want to go to earth because I really need to be tested, right? That's why trials and expiation. Now that I learned this, let's see. I learned the theory. I went to university. Now I want to see, okay, let's see if I can go through it and apply all the learnings that I have. So actually, there is an invitation for us to be grateful and also take the opportunity that this planet, and as incarnated that we are, to learn and to go through that in a learning mode so we can improve our own selves. Joanna, in another text called Enthusiasm in You or Enthusiasm in Ti, she says that life is packed with problems, and this must be so because they are part of the process of evolution. So let's just reflect a little bit there. So there's a law of evolution, there's a law that we progress. Can you imagine that if we only had happiness, that's the only thing that happens, we would not be able to take that opportunity and make improvements, right? So those challenges are the tools, the mechanisms that God gives us so we can improve and grow. And she continues, so it is only normal in this planet that the life is packed with problems, for failure and tragedy to walk side by side with happiness and joy. So that's what I meant at the beginning. It's not only that we only have tragedy here or moments of despair and sadness, we also have moments of joy. We also have moments of happiness. Is that the true happiness? Not yet, but it is a relative happiness that is possible to live and experience here at this planet. We know that God and Jesus wouldn't be fair just to say, yeah, kingdom is not this world, there's no point of having happiness here. Remember Bartolomeo, when we talk about Bartolomeo, that he was sad and say, yeah, happiness is just for a future. There's nothing I can do here now. That's why I need to be sad. He said, no, you have an opportunity to have and experience something right now. Is that the true happiness? Not yet. But we can also experience. And Joanna mentions that in those moments that we struggle, that we face a challenge, she says that always meet your problems with enthusiasm. Every time there is a challenge, she recommends meet that problem with enthusiasm. Why do you think? Why do you think she is making a point and bringing two texts that mentions about enthusiasm? What is the role of enthusiasm when we're facing a problem or a challenge? What do you think?
Gives you strength and helps you get help from also, your spiritual guardians.
Exactly. What is the alternative? We also have an alternative of not meeting with enthusiasm. Meeting with maybe sadness? Or maybe it's like, I can't do it. Sorry? Angry? We have that option.
Yeah.
If we compare and contrast, meeting with enthusiasm or meeting with angry, what do you think can reap the best benefits? And as you mentioned, do we think that if I meet or encounter that problem with angry or bitterness, what are the chances that I will go even deeper and be paralyzed with that challenge and not be able to move forward? Right?
I think it's a way as well to exercise your faith, right?
Exactly. In what sense? Faith in what sense?
In terms of seeing not the worst thing of the experience, and try to see like the good part as well. So then you can be more enthusiastic about it.
Exactly. That's great. And we're going to talk about what also the gospel according to Spiritism, a relationship between meeting with that faith, with that enthusiasm, and what do the spirits talk about what happens in the future, called a point of view. I sound like a broken record because I keep reading that every single day, because that gives me enthusiasm and that gives me courage when I'm facing something, just to think about my point of view, what I'm facing right now and what is programmed, or what does the future hold. We're going to talk about it shortly. So if Joanna is telling and encouraging us to always meet your problems with enthusiasm, she gives a little bit of, okay, what do we mean by enthusiasm? Why enthusiasm is important? And she says that enthusiasm is fundamental to life. She's very keen on it. Like the sun, it fertilizes everything. I found it very I think she was brilliantly in putting enthusiasm as this fundamental mechanism for us, because like the sun helps to grow everything. So if you have enthusiasm within us, that can help us also to fertilize whatever is good within us, because we have that divine essence. We have all the virtues within us. God did not say, Luis, you get 2 seeds. Marcondes, I'll give you 10. I'll give Sonia maybe 15. No, every one of us have all those seeds. And we need to fertilize. And one way to fertilize this, like the sun, is the enthusiasm. And she continues saying that without enthusiasm, the bright scenery around you fades away. So we lost that perspective of positivity. We're going to talk about, it's not to say that Luis or any one of us will be smiling and laughing 100% of the time. That's not what she's saying, right? It's about us putting our mindset. And sometimes we will go into a little bit of despair, but the importance is to be aware and apply enthusiasm when we feel that despair. It says, around you fades away and dark shadows blow out the light of knowledge. So even though we keep saying here, right, studying, educating ourselves is important, reading, understanding the doctrine, understanding all of the other supplementary books. But if we lost and we are in that bitterness and angry, we kind of shut down that mind, or that part of our mind that we use to apply the knowledge, and just fades away. She continues that enthusiasm stimulates and renovates. Modify, seek different paths, find solutions. Without challenges, inertia goes against the law of evolution. With enthusiasm, when enthusiasm wanes, your interest fades away and you plunge into anxiety and bitterness. So if that enthusiasm just fades away, you just forget about it, and you just put the enthusiasm onto the side, we go in that pattern of, I can do it, I'm not able to it, the world is against me, government is against me, everyone is against me, and we go in that pattern of being stuck and not being able to accomplish what we need to accomplish. In another text, That's Entrega-te a Deus. She says that spiritual enthusiasm. Here's one of the educational mechanisms for facing and overcoming afflictions. So here again, she's reinforcing that enthusiasm is that mechanism to overcome our affliction. But what do we mean? And here she gives a definition. I love when they gave a definition of enthusiasm. And she brings that definition from ancient Greek that says that it's enthu is inside us. Is having, her definition of spiritual enthusiasm is to have God within and inside of us. Here's a very different definition. Maybe when we confuse or we misinterpret enthusiasm with euphoria. When you just say, yeah, it's all good, we are going to do it. But you're just kind of externally just on that energy. But there's nothing internally really happening within us and giving us that power or giving us that strength to, and I always like to say, when with that enthusiasm is when we connect. Because everything happens, and I always point here, I know that our mind is not in our bodies, in our spirit, but it's when we connect our thoughts to the divine thoughts, to the divine wisdom. It's with that connection that we are able to do something, to move forward our challenge. If we don't establish that connection, it becomes harder and sometimes even impossible. Will that connection be 100% 365 days, 24/7? It won't. We are not at that point. And we need to recognize that. But as soon as that connection is broken or a little bit interrupted, oops, time to tune in my radio to that divine wisdom. Because it's with that divine wisdom that we are able to really connect with our divine essence and really apply all the resources that we have at our disposal. Those resources can be doctrine, books, knowledge, and everything experience that we acquired. But also, there's always a passage from Os Mensageiros. I won't say it literally, but every time that you do your effort, you do everything that was up to you, all the rest, God will take care. It's not a favor or a condition. It's just the law of mercy and justice saying that you do whatever is up to you, connected with divine essence, using your enthusiasm and many other mechanisms that we all have at our disposal. If we, in our conscience, we understand, I did what I could, now it's time to exercise that faith. It's time to exercise and believe that the rest that is not up to me will happen, will flourish, will do something, right? So we can find ourselves at peace that we did what we could. Maybe we didn't do everything exactly the way we wanted, but we tried. If we did something wrong, at least we tried. The consequences or the results will show. We'll adjust here and there. Okay, maybe I don't do this next time. I do something slightly different. And then we keep going. Because there's no rush. There's no deadline. That by the time you incarnate, Luis, you have 75 years to complete what you need to complete. Or that's your only reincarnation. And we know, even with the law of incarnation, every incarnation is a moment of renovation, is a moment of trial, is a moment of learning. Every single incarnation. Otherwise, what's the point? Why are we coming here? Right? We gotta, and if we go back to question 115 from the Spirit's book, everybody starts from the same base. Right? Everybody starts ignorant. And each one of us will take our course. Some of them will take a little bit faster because they will put their willpower, and we're going to talk about willpower, to do what it takes. Others will maybe complain a little bit more, take some different routes, but at the end, every one of us will get to that point. That's the only determinism from the Spiritist doctrine that we'll get there.
And I find that with as you were talking about euphoria and spiritual enthusiasm, because sometimes I get confused, oh, am I excited, am I not? And I feel that when euphoria is so much more, you feel unstable, your body feels unstable, but with spiritual enthusiasm there's a steadiness or a calm.
Yeah. And it lasts, right? And you kind of keep that balance. The euphoria is just that half an hour, that 1 hour, maybe a day, and then kind of crash. Or because, why? Why do we crash? Because we are not holding on to something that is ours internally. Most of the time, that euphoria will be maybe connected to something externally, right? And when we connect to something internally in our divine essence, then we have that solid structure foundation within us. So that's the passage that I always want to bring. That's the point of view, chapter 2, item number 5 from the Gospel according to Spiritism. Because if you're talking so much about afflictions, about challenges, about bitterness, about how earth is compared to hospital or a prison, so what's the point, right? The spirits are very careful and gives us that hope that is so fundamental. With enthusiasm, maybe if I would have enthusiasm and hope, those are powerful medicines, powerful attitudes that if we are able to kind of marry them together, that gives us that energy to keep going. And the Spirit says that the clear and precise idea which can be formed of a future life provides an unshakable faith in what is to come. This faith places enormous consequences upon the moralization of men, because it completely changes the point of view as how life on earth is regarded. So he's saying here that the future is bright. The future of earth, not only earth and within each one of us here, is bright. We will get to a better place. It will depend on how much do we want to put our effort and our work. It might take a little bit longer. For some, might take X amount of time, different to A, B, C amount of time for another one. But at the end, believing in that promising and a future of happiness gives us that strength and put a little bit of perspective of the challenge that we have here on earth. It even gives us, for me, a little bit of more enthusiasm and a little bit of more hope and strength that, right, this time of my life is really not good. Deep breath, meet that problem that I'm facing with a learning opportunity, seeing some bright side of it and what is that moment is telling me, and believing that there is a better future for me. The vicissitudes, as vicissitudes, que Kardec loves to, he always used the vicissitudes as the challenge that we have, right? The vicissitudes and tribulations of this life become nothing more than incidents. It's like, how dare you? That is just an incident, right? It's sometimes there are some points on the doctrine that really kind of shaken us, like, just an incident? And each one of us have those moments that's like, but if it kind of make me think, it's like, okay, in the big scheme of things, maybe, yeah, exactly. Let me put it a little bit in perspective, and this is maybe a tough incident, but an incident, which can be supported with patience, as they are known to be a short duration and will be followed by a more amenable state. So that faith and that hope, and helping us put into perspective. Arthur, in one point, and there is the book there, Renúncia. I don't know how to say that in English. I don't know how to say renúncia in English, but Renúncia. I don't know if you've read, but there is a character called Alcione. I don't know if you know her. She's like, okay, if I get 10% of Alcione in this life, I'm gold. Because she's such a, oh my God, like, it's the way that she faces life. She's just like, okay, she absorbed and she knows and she leaves those concepts and that hope. And Arthur kind of mentioned some points and how she was so hold into hope. Alcione was hopeful, I want to say maybe 99.9% of the time. And she said that if we live a life without hope, that might be one of the biggest evils or the biggest downsides of our life, is not having that hope. Because when we really not worry, but if we really occupy sincerely our time with our spiritual enlightenment, we will comprehend and we will understand the meaning of the things or of the experiences. And I thought that was Arthur making that comment of Alcione and really taking Alcione as that example of hope. Really, it's like, yeah, put into perspective, Luis. Like, think about what happened in the past, how you grow and how you evolve, and also how much more there is for you, and how this moment here invites you to have that hope and understand how that moment helps me in my spiritual evolution and how I want to become a better immortal spirit. And she compares, and Arthur makes some reflection saying that hope is like faith is divine clarity of certainty. Living without hope is kind of going through the shadows of our own spirits, It's not seeing the horizons. It's not seeing that future. And in one of the passages, Carlos, who is another character, is saying that hope is invincible. It's invincible. Don't we say that a esperança é a última que morre? Actually, hope doesn't die. Carlos Campetti one day said that. Because all the challenges that we have, even from the bitterness to the happiness, they pass. Tudo nessa vida passa. Everything shall pass. The good and the bad things. However, the happiness and the hope and belief in the future and the eternal future should be within us, should remain with us. And he said that hope is destined to shine in the moments of most darkness of our journey. That is the time when we are in the darkness time. That is a strong invitation for us to really hold on our hope, so that hope can be like a light that when we are in the dark, that light can guide our path. Without that, we are truly on the dark, trying to see where do I go next. So I encourage to learn more about Alcione in Renúncia and how she is a model of us to hold on in our hope.
Can I add
Yeah.
something? I care for children, And when I see about incidents, and they're just incidents, I like to look at how children see life and how they're desperate or they throw tantrums or their world ended because
I'm learning
the
that.
blue cup is in the washer and they cannot use it. So they're incidents for us, and us as adults we look at this as very trivial, very simple, but that's probably how the spiritual world see us when we're like with that trouble. That's just a little cup.
Yeah.
So
good analogy.
I like to look at the children and understand that if it's that simple for us now, it's probably going to be simple in the future.
In the future.
The things that we go right now.
We can even look at our past and say, okay, some of the challenges that we face, it's like, oh, maybe if we compare when I was facing that challenge and now that I faced that challenge, how I grow, it's like, oh yeah, it wasn't that bad. Right? Now I grew some, what they like to call here, some thick skin to face the next one. Joanna continues, awake to reality and let yourself be permeated by enthusiasm of love and charity, changing the origin of outdated feelings. So Joanna said, do not allow yourself to be disenchanted or just like, oh, life sucks with life. Nor rush, because sometimes what happens when we go, it's like, yeah, life is like this life is not for me. What happens, we go into some psychological escapes, right? Depression, anxiety, or going through other types of things to what we like to say suppress and numb our conscience, so we have a momentary or a temporary break for the challenge that we have. Because what she says, whatever you go, you will find the same challenges, perhaps more complicated than what you're facing at that moment. You try to get something that will maybe cure or really put it aside, but will become even worse. We can relate to addiction and other things that might happen to us. And in the text, Enthusiasm in You, she says, whatever happens to you, good or bad, move on with enthusiasm, leaving misfortune behind. And now she explained, why should I leave misfortune behind? She said, to dwell too long on the mishaps of life will only vitalize them and create the mental atmosphere of pernicious effect. And I don't know if it was you that mentioned to me about one lecture from Rosandro where he's talking about forgiveness, and he compares the forgiveness of if you vomit in a Tupperware or in a container. And he says, okay, something happens. He was like, someone was in the bus going to work and someone vomit on that other person. So the other person took that vomit with a Tupperware, with a container, closed it, and that person kept remembering and angry with that person that vomited on him or her. So every time that we hold on to something that happened on that bitterness, it's us open that Tupperware vomit and smelling again. It's such a graphic, but he really put the point across, because it is true. If we dwell on that mishap or that misfortune, it's like us opening something that happened with us and you're smelling again. You relive again everything that happened. So face that with enthusiasm. Now it's just me. Maybe throw away that container of vomit and not forget about it, but try to understand and see what is that telling each one of us that we should learn in our life. But let's try. I think the invitation is not for us to keep reliving. Because if you keep reliving, we are connecting again to the fact, to the situation, and that negativity, that atmosphere will not produce what we need to produce if we want to keep moving, keep moving on. Joanna continues, when anything unpleasant happens to you, do not avoid the opportunity to continue working with enthusiasm. Forget yesterday and wait for a happy tomorrow. Let's see Jesus. Jesus went through a lot of challenges, right? And with all the challenges, he kept moving on and even giving us the examples on how to deal with that. Can you imagine Jesus like, oh darn it, those ones that didn't like me or didn't understand my message. It's like, boom. It's like, it's not the way. He actually took all those opportunities and showed us his brothers, as us as humanity, what should we do? What is the best alternative for us to learn and work within ourselves to change? And Joanna mentions that at the beginning, there are options. You can go into the bitterness and angry. Yeah, you can. Or we can go to enthusiasm. And she compares. An enthusiastic person spreads optimism around, stirs up effort, and leads to activities that create progress and ensure success. On the other hand, anyone who loses their enthusiasm becomes gloomy and depressed. Let's compare. If we are surrounded by someone that shows that enthusiasm, let's not deny it's better than someone that is always in that gloomy state, like sad, frown. The energy, it's like it's hard for us to be surrounded by someone like that. I'm not saying that just ignore the ones that are in that gloom. It's not what I'm saying. We can encourage and help the ones, right? And sometimes we will be in that gloomy state. But if we choose the enthusiasm, we will be able to attract better, even incarnated and also discarnated spirits that can help us. And we will be able to continue in our progress so we can be successful in everything that we do. Same when Emmanuel mentions about what is that we should avoid in Ceifa de Luz, ou Vinha de Luz, Emmanuel says what we should be really careful is with chronicle pessimism. If we stay on that pessimism throughout the time, that is the time that we'll be stuck and we'll not be able to progress and accomplish what we need. And Emmanuel at the same time say, okay, if chronicle pessimism is not the way, what is the way? In Thought and Life, he says, positivity and confidence is the only way to achieve positive things. It's not our way. It's the only way to achieve something. So there is, for us, to balance and to be aware. If we are in that prolonged time on that pessimism, for us to seek for help and see what can I do to break that cycle. Joanna continues, discovering them, and this is the divine laws, in everyday life constitutes the great achievement to experience them with enthusiasm and perfect integration. The divine laws are guardrails. It's our roadmap that Jesus gave us. If we follow them, we'll be able to succeed. If we don't, there will be consequences, but there is a way to go back into that roadway. There's always a way. It's not that, you are lost, Luis. You're a lost cause. There's nothing we can do with you. No. There is the path with the divine laws that if we follow, everything will be good. If we don't, there will be consequences that will kind of nudge us away into the path again. But where do I take that enthusiasm to be in that perfect integration? And that is our willpower. If we don't want to, and we don't have the willpower, there's nothing we can do. It's such an important component of our life is to direct our willpower to follow those divine laws. We can choose not to. Yes, we can. However, even if we don't choose, we go to the sideways, not the right road. If we don't have that willpower, we won't go back to the right road. That's so important. And there's another question, I think it's 900 something, where I won't say everything literally, but there's a question the Spirit's book saying that's another one that shakes us. Can man Can man transform all our bad inclination with our own efforts? And the Spirit said, yes. And most of the time, it's just a small effort. What is missing is the willpower. It's like, how dare you again, saying that it's just a little bit of effort. But again, it's that willpower for us to direct and do the work. It's really go and really focus our attention. Putting all the noise and the things to the side that don't matter. Not that they don't matter for our entire life, but maybe at that moment, or that those things matter for Luis in this life incarnated. They serve a purpose, but there is a bigger purpose of Luis as an immortal spirit. That everything that Luis will do will carry over. The rest stays here in this planet. It has its place and its importance, but it's important for us to balance if I'm giving too much importance to the things that are just temporary. And what does Leon Denis say about the will? He said the will is the greatest, the willpower is the greatest of all powers. It is in its action, comparing to a magnet. The will to live, to develop life in us, attracts us to new vital resources. This is the secret of the law of evolution. So, with that enthusiasm, if we want to put our will towards that enthusiasm, that helps or that behaves or acts as a magnet. Things will come towards us to help us. The resources, the things that we need to do to develop and to evolve and to fulfill that law of evolution, that is the requirement, the prerequisite for us to put front and center so we can succeed. And he continues, the will can act with intensity of the fluidic body. Can you imagine? That will has kind of somehow materialized in our fluidic body to give us the strength, to give us the energy to keep moving. Activate its vibration and its way, appropriate it to an every higher mode of sensation. Prepare it for a higher degree of existence. So then, if you want to know more about will, thought and life, a book that I recommend to everyone, there is 25 chapters. There is a specific chapter just that talks about willpower and how the willpower should be that guide, that coordinates everything that happens with us. Our imagination, our desire. Because we can have a desire, some desejos, like, I want to wake up this morning and go to the gym, but the bed is so much better. So cold outside. Yeah, there is desire there, but where is my will? Using just a simple example. Of course, when it's minus 30, we can. But that if we don't put, and he calls Emmanuel calls the cabinet of the will. It's kind of the CEO of our mind. Without it, everything derails. Our desires go in so many directions, and it's all unbalanced and uncoordinated, not towards our moral evolution. And towards the end, Joanna continues, with enthusiasm, trust and serve, fight and love, rejoice and be at peace. Sing with enthusiasm the sublime ballad found in faith in God, and disastrous occurrence will be transformed into blessings of harmony, along your path of spiritual growth. Again, Joanna here makes that strong point with all the afflictions, with all the vicissitudes, with all the challenges that we have, putting that enthusiasm. Can you imagine us singing throughout the challenge that we are facing with that enthusiasm based in love, finding that peace within ourselves, trusting a better future life with that hope and that faith? Everything will help us and will transform the challenges from challenge to blessing, so we can keep going in our path of spiritual growth. And to finish, in the other text, she says, it is stimulating to meet someone who walked past difficulties, isn't it? When we hear something, someone just giving, and I think Attila gave an amazing example a couple weeks ago of a father that forgave someone that committed murder of his children. Isn't that like you feel inspired? You feel that it's possible. And she said, left sadness behind and moved on. So the ones that are able to do that serves as an example. Their example will stand as light to illuminate the pathways for others. And she finished. Be you one such messenger of happiness just by keeping your enthusiasm. If we are able, of course, there's no, we can be a little bit of a model, and we can be and help others, because the example drags everyone. When you just say something, that's something, yeah, Luis saying something, yeah, but he doesn't practice anything, right? Our example really helps others. So the invitation that we keep that enthusiasm and help spreading that optimism within us. Because if I decide to do that, and each one of us, we can expand our bubbles until we can reach new horizons and more people. That's the invitation to live with enthusiasm. Thank you. Any questions or comments or insights? Or does that make sense?
Totally.
Yeah? Sometimes we're not able to do every single time, but if we are able to kind of identify and break when we're not having the enthusiasm and say, okay, how can I meet this challenge in a better state with enthusiasm? I think that's a win already. Final prayer, and then we go to response. All right. Connected that we are with our Father, God, Jesus our Master, our guardian angels, the spiritual team of FSS. Let's thank again for this opportunity that we had to learn more about the importance of enthusiasm, how it helps us keeping that hope, keeping that faith, keeping that optimism, that each one of us have that divine essence within us and have all the resources required to make the changes that we want to. Let us reflect in the moments that we might not facing those challenges with enthusiasm. Why I couldn't? What can I do in the next time that I face a challenge? I can be aware and I can face that using Joana de Angelis, our dear mentor, recommendation to face it with enthusiasm. Let's ask for another week, another blessed week, another week with enthusiasm, a week of serenity, and a week that we find within ourselves the willpower required to make the change within us, to make the change within our society, to make the change within our family, and that we keep confident with faith, trusting in Jesus and God, using the Spiritism doctrine to enlighten us and help us in our moral evolution, and that we keep the work here with FSS, and keeping this light of Spiritism in our city, in our province, and in our country. So be it.